don't know, man. Like, it was weird to engage, to look at him. This isn't recording.
Oh, yeah, I was like, you know what? Let's just start recording. We're already talking movies and so on like that. We're talking about how it was like impossible to see that Kevin Smith, the 420 movie, and so on like that. And you're going on about, but no, it is kind of weird though. As you're saying, like he did the classic thing when like a big guy loses weight and then they almost go too far and then they go past skinny and then they get to a very kind of odd looking, like it's almost like he's skinnier looking than Jason Mewes.
Yeah, which is sorry. Look, everybody's body is their own business. He's allowed to look however he wants, but there's a strange. I shouldn't say strange. No, you know what? I'm gonna own it. Like, there's a strange forced smile, like on his face, and then he was also doing like, I think like, I don't know, Access Hollywood, some sort of, like just he was just in weird spots, or not weird. It's just not where like He's one of the sort of like the early podcasters. And I also kind of think like with his show, which would go for several hours, you just feel like I spend more time with this guy's voice than I do with actual friends of mine. Mm-hmm. So it was a little like, I was like, oh, this you've changed in this way, and I don't know this new version of you as well as I know the old version. And then like I wasn't super like, what was it? Was it Hosers?
No, Yoga Hosers?
Yeah.
that one I did find in the cinemas. I drove all the way up to Roseville to go see it. Actually, I was at a Comic-Con in Sacramento, and I was like, Yoga Hosers is playing in Roseville. I'm driving there afterwards. Probably was all of 4 people in the cinema.
So for this one, for the 420 movie, I was like, oh, this feels like it's a return to like the what I like about it, like the Kevin Smith that I feel more comfortable, that I know better.
Yeah.
And so I've been kind of like, oh, I should go check it out. But like you're saying, like it's got to be out here because like,
yeah, it's probably, if it's just, I just could not find that movie. I couldn't find a Sacramento showing. At least I didn't go to maybe San Francisco, but wasn't playing in Modesto or any of the other theaters I could find. And it was like such kind of a bummer. I was like, man, I really want to go all the way because. Yeah, it's one of those ones, like Kevin Smith was always a big one for me growing up, especially, just you see Clerks and you're like, oh, now I want to make movies and so on like that. Yeah. It is definitely one of those ones that fits under that same category as like El Mariachi and Cannibal the Musical. And, there's just these handful of films that's just like you watch them and you're like, oh, yeah. Now I want to jump into the fray. But and it's kind of a bummer because it's like the podcast was such a big deal. Like, I mean, that's the whole reason that like me and Ryan started the Old Man Orange, back in the day, was because it was like, we're like, we're so into like the Kevin Smith podcast, and that was right when he was kind of doing them. We're like, let's do our own, And the kind of bummer thing is that for the last handful of years, Kevin Smith hasn't really done. He does like the Hollywood Babylons, which they're fun for what they are. I feel like if you're there live, it's probably great, but kind of like listening to it, live shows, listening to them are never like. It's not the same for the at home audience, And it's just like, I used to love the Smodcast with, him and Scott Mosier, and Edumacation was my all-time favorite one. I was so bummed when that one kind of went away because him and Andy McElfresh, and we got to see that one and like see it live at San Francisco. It was really cool and whatnot. And then even like the Fat Man on Batman, when it used to be all about Batman, and they'd have like the cool interviews and so on like that. And then it kind of just became like, hey, let's just read what's coming up on the internet news feed. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that'd be fine if it's its own show, but And then it's just like, it's just like kind of Kevin Smith sort of disappeared for a while as far as podcasting and so on goes, and then all of a sudden he popped up on a Theo Vaughn one. I was like, if I saw Kevin Smith on there, I'm like, well, I gotta listen. Kevin Smith's on there, okay. And then he goes on and like, he talks about all this stuff that I'm like, man, I'm just behind the news on Kevin Smith stuff. It's like, I didn't know he went to a mental institution for like 6 months. Like, this is explaining why maybe I haven't heard about him, And then it's like, and then he has a brand new movie. Yeah,
he talked about that because I think he had. He had said that he started to feel, not real. And armchair psychologist, was like, well, the guy in the mirror isn't you. So like, I mean, obviously it is him. It's just sort of like, I think anybody who goes through is like, like weird, not weird. I gotta stop being so.
Mhm.
Anyone who goes through this sort of physical transformation is gonna have a little bit of like, oh, I don't look like myself. I kind of think like, oh, well, that, like, it's also, through the extra lens of sort of like when you're a public figure, and then like I did kind of feel like he was he was saying like social media, like he was putting, like he was doing so much and putting out a constant image of himself that didn't feel like him, and he kind of felt like he lost connection with himself. And I also kind of think like, I think that is a thing that could have happened to, like the thing you were just saying, he was so, I think when the scale and the stakes were smaller, like he was overextended in a way that like just fit. Like he's like, oh, hey, I'm not working on a movie. I want to do all these things. I can talk extemporaneously about comics for hours. I can talk extemporaneously about movies for hours, blah, 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 blah. And so all of the things fit. But I think like when he got kind of maybe overcommitted in all these different ways and had all this sort of like, content that isn't just him in front of a microphone talking, I could say like, well, yeah, it makes total sense that you feel like, hey, I don't know who I am anymore. I felt genuinely bad for him. And also like, so this is weird. When I was a kid, I was exactly what I am. Like I was small, slender, nerdy. Like I was a kid who loved fantasy novels, and I had a stuffed unicorn, like, and I looked like that kid. Exactly like that kid. And then like when I hit puberty, like I got hit with a gamma ray, and like, my body changed, and I looked like a linebacker. And people changed the way that they talk to me, because like people would talk to me like I was a nerd, I was an egghead, and they would talk to me when I looked like that, And then when I was a linebacker, they would talk slower, like I was dumb, And then, like I think my self-perception changed, because I was like, am I that guy? Like who, like, so I don't think people fully account for like what these physical transformation, like a drastic physical transformation, like it's more than skin deep.
Yeah, no, it definitely could be something like that, and yeah, there was like a big revelation, of just all these things at once. I'm like, oh wow, because it's like one of those ones, like, yeah, he just doesn't have the normal podcast out. I know he does have his own like little network thing you can subscribe to. That's you pay like $5 a month, and it gives you access to all the old episodes. Like he kind of went a different route that everybody else did, but it's not like the bummer thing for me is I look at it and go, well, doesn't have Smodcast. It doesn't have all like the classic shows that I kind of like. It's like, he's got some kind of new ones on. Don't get me wrong, I like listening to generally anything Kevin Smith does. As I said, just him coming back on that Theo Von one, just like it just felt like it was like an inspirational one just to hear his voice again on there. It's like, there's the guy I've been looking for my whole, where have you been for so long? And just growing up with all the movies and all that good stuff too. And yeah, as I said, I went on that hunt for that 420 movie. I was so excited for it, and it's like, well, I guess I have to watch it at home now, so I'll just wait till it comes out on Blu-ray or something like that and go about it that way,
Well, don't give up hope. It might pop up, what I mean? Like it might hit like the secondary theater, I don't know. Like the whole movie market is so weird right now. And,
oh yeah, it's strange because I was looking, I was like, man, I haven't been to movie theaters in a while, and I was like, well, there's got to be something coming out, and I'm looking like, man, there's like nothing coming out till like November or something like that. I'm like, what's wrong with October here? I'm like, boy, I'm like, my Regal Movie Pass thing is not going to get any use for a while there. I almost look at it like it's a charity donation nowadays, but
no, you know what? That's the way to look at it, because I feel like movies are in a like, I don't know, man. I feel like everything is like I live in Los Angeles, so like a lot of my friends work in the industry, and the industry is like every facet of it has been kind of like like people like VFX people who like do posts and stuff, like they're usually like, well, they're always working because something's always ending, and like they're having trouble. And you hear people in movies and film, they're like, box offices, like it's been shaky since it was before the pandemic, not great, but shaky since the pandemic. And I think these are like institutions that I deeply, deeply love. So like I don't know, man. It's nerve-wracking.
Oh, it really is. You know what? You know what the people need to do if they want to keep doing their slight filmmaking? That they should go to the one avenue that I've done that nobody else has ever. That I've never met somebody else, and it's the funeral market. There's a lot of video and editing needed in that section. It's so weird because it's like I remember you make some wedding videos and then next thing you know there's a section for funeral too, and nobody seems to jump on that one. But believe me, that's not going away anytime soon.
No. If anything, it's increasing. Hey, that's a great segue for Old Man Pumpkin, the
oh yeah.
special Halloween app.
I know where this is kind of, I guess it's technically the first one of going into like a little Halloween theme. I was like, you know what, we should get some horror movies going. Well, technically, I guess the last episode I did was Cannibal the Musical. So it's like, it's got a slight horrorness to it, you know, there with comedy and other things. But yeah, I was like, I got to have Jack Foster back on again. And we're going to sit here and talk some real old school classic movies. And this time I asked him, I'm like, dude, which one do you want to kind of see? And you threw out the idea for Mad Monster Party and whatnot, and I was like, you know, that sounds kind of familiar, but I don't think I've seen it. And I thought that when I watched it, sat down and looked through it, I'm like, I'm gonna see something that's gonna kind of jump out. I'm going like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this. And by the time I was done, I'm not too sure if I have or have not seen this, you know, but like, you know, it comes from that Rankin Bass, which really just sounds like some like alternative punk rock band when you say that out. But the whole, you know, guys that created Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know, Santa Claus, Little Drummer Boy, there's all sorts of stuff. I saw that they did the Last Unicorn. I didn't realize that was one of their movies.
Yes, yeah. Because they have the whole animation side, and then they have the animagic, which is what they call the stop motion, and then I think everybody knows the I think the Christmas specials, you know, they know them pretty well. But then correct me if I'm wrong, the animated side, they also did Grinch, and I think Frosty the Snowman is from their animated, like so they really kind of dominated the like seasonal kiddie market. And then later I think they were doing, so I read up on like have the DVD of Mad Monster Party, and usually when you get a DVD, unless it's like a Criterion or something nice, you know, they just have like the little fold out.
I really wish you had the Criterion version of the Mad Monster Party. I feel if this movie doesn't have the Criterion version, it is so missing out on that.
But this one has a really big book. It was like
whoa! It's like a graphic. Yeah, they give you a large, you know, book there. Was a couple disc one and so on like that.
The disc itself, not that this is a home video review or home video, good God, home media review site, but the disc itself, it has the trailer and I think like some stills, so it doesn't have a bunch of. You had sent some nice kind of behind the scenes stuff, which. I don't know, maybe they've done later versions. This was just a DVD. Maybe it went to Blu-ray. Can I tell my story about this?
Yes.
Which also, I kept looking it up. I did necessary research, went to Wikipedia. And
very important.
But it frequently has the question mark at the end of it. So Mad Monster Party. And I was not able to figure out why it's a question.
Well, it's funny because I saw that there's like a Turner Classic Movies little like old video I found where they just talked about this for about like 3 minutes, and that was the same thing that guy said in there. He's like why is it in the question mark? Like nobody's been able to figure that out.
Well, first, before I start, pop quiz. So you've seen Rudolph. You know Dasher, you know Dancer, Prancer, Vixen. No, you've seen Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Yeah.
What's the one with the Heat Miser and Cold Snap? What is his name?
Is that the Little Drummer Boy one?
Is that the Little Drummer Boy?
I don't know. That one I haven't seen in a long time either. I know I have like a disc set that has a handful of them on there, but you know,
have you seen the Jack Frost one?
Yes, I believe so. Because I remember that was the. I remember I was confused when there was that Jack Frost that came out like in like the late '90s. I'm like, wait a second, is that related to the old animation? Like, what is this one here? It's got Batman in it though. That's all I know.
Isn't it? He comes back from the dead. He doesn't terrorize his family; it's to protect his family.
Yeah. It's like it sounds like a horror movie, but no, it's just more like I think like. He slips off. I think this is like a '90s problem. Is it like there was this fear of like dads falling off roofs and dying, like the Santa Claus, Jack Frost. You know, it's just there was this danger zone element out there. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's like one of those. It sounds like it's that, or it sounds like a hard drama. It's like one of those ones. Like if you probably explain that movie, just like don't you know? It's like one of those ones. You're like, it's like with his dad, he dies, and then he comes back and he's like hanging out with his son. But he comes back as a different entity and so on like that. But then you go, oh, well, he's a snowman.
No, that's the A24 version. He's various manifestations of winter. He's like a cold snap. He's a breeze. He's fog rising up off the water. No, actually, Jack Frost is very similar thematically to The Last Unicorn, because in The Last Unicorn, to protect the unicorn, she gets turned by magic into a human being, and then sort of like very similar to Jack Frost, she meets somebody and kind of falls in love, things that like unicorns don't do. And then, as I said, I had a stuffed unicorn, so I am deep on unicorn lore.
Well, I'm big on that Last Unicorn. That was like one of those like early days, like one of the first like real VHS I had that was like not taped off TV.
You got the real deal.
Yeah, the real. I didn't have a whole lot of real deals when I was growing up. Everything was just like labeled, taped off TV, fit 3 movies on 1 cassette.
You know what? I also did the same thing, and I wish I could go back because I would. So like I would sometimes just record while I was sort of watching stuff. So it also had like bouncing around channels, and it would be fun to sort of like revisit that kid. Either way, but in Jack Frost, he's like the spirit of winter, and he becomes a human person, and he falls in love with a gorgeous redhead. This was going to recur later, because I guess Rankin and or Bass had a thing for redheads, because they are like some of the prettiest redheads in stop motion come from their studio.
It's like Stan Lee. It must just have been that era.
Yeah, right. There was also they did a New Year's one that was the baby New Year runs away and doesn't want to, that was clearly 2019 or whatever. Doesn't want to be the new year. And then, so I'd seen all those as a kid, and then one afternoon on our the regular affiliate station, ours was channel 44, which would play like usually Saturday afternoon stuff would be like creature feature, like shock theater, that kind of stuff during the day, and then maybe like a little like kung fu until the evening. And then there was just one day in the middle of the afternoon, and I want to say I don't think it was even Halloween. Like I think it might have been like off season, but they had this, and an experience that I think we had as kids. You would frequently, because of the way television was, and it you didn't have VHS yet, and everything was sort of like you just catch it. So you would come in 20 minutes into something, and sort of pick up, and then also you would have to like sometimes you just like, oh, I gotta leave, also not see how things end. So although I did see the end of this, because I remember very specifically that last scene with her, like nobody's perfect, and it stuck with me. But as I got older, I remember asking people, like we would talk about like the like not older like 9 or 10, I mean like older like in your 20s, and you're like, oh, remember those old love those blah blah blah. Did you guys ever see the Halloween one with like all the monsters, and they like everybody would all blank stare like no, and I started to think like, did I like am I confused?
Did I slip and fall at one point and just have this old dream scene?
I have that 90s syndrome early.
Because in my memory, it's not even Halloween when I'm watching this.
But I was such a Halloween kid that like I was like, oh my god, this is I mean, fuck that, excuse my language, screw all that Christmas stuff. But
Oh,
like,
you can say whatever you want. That's part of the old man orange way.
Stuff.
Yeah, screw Christmas, damn it.
The lamest edgelord is like, fuck Christmas. Santa's a Nazi. No. I mean, I like Christmas. I mean, Halloween is just infinitely more cool than Christmas.
It's got more variety, I guess you would say.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way to say it. Like Halloween, like really has like a lot of depth. Christmas is kind of there's a standard kind of bread and butter kind of like approach to it. You know what I mean? Mostly you don't mess too much with core traditions, but like really Halloween you can run off that any which way but loose.
And it's the things that I think people love best, like kids. Like dressing up in costumes and getting candy. So like that, like I think that like it just. So hey, can I ask you? Halloween, what was your favorite costume?
I had a handful of interesting ones because, like this podcast, the Old Man Orange one, when I was a kid, I dressed up as really old people stuff too that like confused people because, like one of them in like second grade, I believe it was, I dressed up as Sherlock Holmes. At that time period in the 90s, it was a very like, there was no Sherlock Holmes movies that had come out for a while. Maybe The Great Mouse Detective was the closest thing. I dressed up as Zorro because I was really obsessed with Zorro also too as a kid, so I did that one year. So yeah, that was kind of a fun one too. And then me and my buddy a little bit later, my buddy Kyle, we dressed up as the Blues Brothers in 4th grade. Well, that was also the same year that Men in Black came out. People didn't get the Blues Brothers references right off the bat.
Do the thing.
Yeah. That's what my mom. She's like, just take the boombox and carry it over there so you play the song. Like, yeah, I don't think they still get it. You know what I mean? So those are some of those fun ones that I remember. Like, it felt like that was it. Like, I never seemed to have like too many like, oh, here's kind of a standard for this time period costume. Like, I just kind of like went with either like a movie or a TV show or something that I really enjoyed and had something quite unique.
Yeah, that unfortunately, I was sort of like in a like my mom wasn't crafty, so like so we did a lot of those like store bought. You know what? I hate to say it. I think I was a basic bitch. I was an Ewok.
See, my mom did the exact thing. She's like, "We're not buying any of those. That's too expensive. We're gonna make them at home."
Oh, no. And you know what? I wish that I had done. I wish that like now looking back, I wish I was like, oh, that would have been so cool. But I do have a kind of nostalgia now for those I was rewatching Venture Brothers and Hank is wearing the Batman one. And he keeps cutting his lip. He keeps cutting his tongue on the left lip, and like that's such a such a Since memory.
You get those like weird little tags or like the costumes that are just made like so cheap. Or like one of my favorite ones I remember seeing like just in one of those like Spirit Halloween stores back in the day is there was one that they had that I just thought it was hilarious because it's like, what, you can't go out and make this costume on your own? It was a Shaggy for Scooby-Doo costume, and all it was a $50 pair of a green shirt and a brown pair of pants, and that was it. I don't even think it came with a wig. That's how cheap it was. They were gonna charge you $50 for that.
You know what? I was with a group of people. This is later, I think, in my early 20s or late teens. I was a group of us did the Scooby Gang, and I was Fred.
Oh, perfect.
And, I don't know if you remember, but they had the spray hair color.
I remember using that.
Oh God, it was I probably it's probably why my hair fell out.
Yeah, well, you gotta go take like a shower for like the next like 40 minutes trying to get it back out, and you still don't get it out for like 3 more days.
If you've ever seen the stuff that they spray, like speaking of Christmas, the white, like it looks like snow, and you frost your windows. It's just this weird stuff in a can that comes out. Like you would put that on your hair, and like it truly like. It was great for the costume because it was like, oh, your hair is yellow. It's not blonde. It's like...
Yeah. You got literally cartoon like character colors.
So when you would go trick or treating, what was the best treat you ever got?
Ooh, that's a good one there. I don't know if I can remember specifically, but You would get a good haul and everything like that. You know what's a weird? I just want to tie this into something I heard just recently. Apparently, there's this like somewhat tradition coming out now where there was this dude, and I think he was in like East LA or something like that, who was handing out potatoes, or he gave the choice to kids. He gave them either like you get candy or potatoes, and then it turned out that more kids chose the potato over the candy, and then that turned his house into, oh man, it's the potato man. So they got super excited for the following years because he would just get a big old sack of potatoes and just start handing out potatoes to kids.
Oh my God, that's fun. Oh,
so I thought that was kind of charming, clever, and different.
yeah. No, I almost exclusively lived in apartment buildings, so never had trick-or-treaters really. Although one year I did.
See, I live down the middle of the woods, so it'd be very frightening if I had trick or treat. yeah. I'll say this: I don't know who would be more scared, them or me. That's the thing when you're this far out. I think they're just as scared as like it's like that thing they say like animals. Like they're just as frightened of you as you are of them, and I think that's the same thing when you're out like in the woods. It's like, well, in those woods, everybody's afraid. Like you just don't know. It's unpredictable.
That reminds me, when I was a kid, when I was young, like I would say probably like 7 or 8, we would go a little ways away from our neighborhood into the sort of like housing, like the development. Usually they were like slightly more affluent and like gave better candy. And I remember going up, it was called Tropical Shores, and because it was kind of on the water. And I remember going up to this house, and they had their porch light was like, they'd taken out the porch light and they had put in a blue party light. Now, nowadays, those things are everywhere, and you're kind of like, but I feel like back in this would have been like the early 80s. It wasn't as common, like it was like, it was really, it did make everything feel like, oh, wow, you are now entering a different space. This guy answered the door, full vampire tuxedo, cape, everything. And he came out in character. And I was trick-or-treating with my mom and my aunt. And my aunt was like, she was a very pretty lady and like not one to kind of like suffer fools gladly. And this guy, he immediately went over to her and started like kind of like playing with her, maybe flirting, and then he started dancing with her, and they just started dancing, like kind of like waltzing around under this weird blue light. And like I was so fucking sure that guy was a vampire. You know what I mean? I was like,
it felt so real.
My aunt, and I was terrified. I remember telling my mom to take his candy out because I didn't want to eat it. And then later that night, I was like, he's going to come to our house. He's going to come to our house. And he's going to steal my aunt. And
you start preparing. You're like loading up the garlic. You're getting your steaks ready and sharpened up.
And to this day, I kind of like, I feel like I like, that's the like perfect dose of whimsy and weird, like that you really need. Like we just moved into a house. This person, I've always lived in apartments. It's the first time living in a house, so it's like, like, oh, we may have trick-or-treaters this year. And so like just yesterday I took we have a little carport, and I took the lights out and replaced it with these like creepy green lights, which is just like Tommy knockers. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want kids, if they come up to our house, I want them to like although this is Los Angeles, everybody, like the neighborhoods around here are just so bonkers. Like you have special people, they go crazy. It's fantastic. A great place for Halloween. So sorry to bring it back full. So I had seen this as a kid.
Well, I was gonna say, but before you go back to that movie, you just kind of remind me, because you were talking about like just that vampire guy and so on like that. I just want to say this: there was a area that I used to go trick or treating as a kid, and it was this neighborhood called Willow Springs, because you kind of had to go drive to the certain areas to find like what was best. And this is something that I used to remember too, that I think there's like a generation like lost part here, where like people used to go way more out on Halloween decorations, Christmas decorations, and a lot of times I used to always say it was kind of like a post-World War II kind of era, like, you know, those kind of grandparents and so on, and then it just started kind of faded out after a bit. But like, I remember there was this one lady's house, and she would decorate it like fully. I mean, everything, the trees were decorated, everything had its proper lighting, you know what I mean? There's spider webs everywhere, and she would dress up as a witch, and she'd have a big old cauldron that she would sit there stirring, and it was glowing and everything like that. And she was, I mean, like a full like makeup, like hardcore, like, well, this, like I said, everything went out. You know, the pumpkins were out there, like all the decorations were like top notch. You know, looked like it was a mixed match of like she had bought some of these things, but some of the stuff was definitely custom made too. And it's that thing that like it was almost expected every year. Like, and the house only got more and more improved because it was like each time you went out there, it's like, oh, what are the new additions and so on like that. You know, and then that of course I think it's kind of spreads and it makes the rest of the neighborhood kind of like have to up their game and so on. But I definitely feel like there's definitely a decline as time has gone on to some of these, you know, really neat things. I'm not saying there's obviously certain neighborhoods no matter what, and there's probably certain people that still keep up the traditions well, but it's like the same thing of Christmas. It used to be like there would just be all these cool like neighborhoods where like you could just go drive the streets and look at the neat lights and everything like that, and it feels like it's so few and far between anymore. You know, because what happens, I think it just gets to a point and you goes like, well, old Bob there has passed away, and with it, he was buried with his lights. And they will not be brought out again, you know, and that's sort of it, you know. It just and sometimes I think that kind of you know, there's certain people that really carry those traditions on, and sometimes I always think about it too is just, you know, it's that kind of thing that just different people of different time periods and generations would spend their money on, you know, different things, you know, and we've sort of spread out that there's so many more things that you can kind of get with your money that I think sometimes some of those Halloween and Christmas as well, you know, just goes a little bit on the, you know, downscaled a bit.
No, I think you're right, and I think you put your finger on it when you said there's this kind of post-war. I don't know what the word for it is. It's not boosterism, but there's this sort of like benevolent conformity where everyone is sort of like, hey, we all participate in these rituals, you know, and like. Because I think like my family, you know, they were Midwestern, and they were very, we grew up very modestly. So we did not have a ton of extra money for example, for Halloween, we would give out popcorn balls, you know, because it's cheap. You can make a lot, and they're good. I don't know.
Yeah, they're good. And they're unique too, which is always the thing too. Like, you know, sometimes there's that thing too. Even as a kid, you're more appreciative of like, you're like, oh, this person, they just went to the store and just bought a bunch of like, you know, stickers. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Nothing too exciting. Like when you get that unique stuff. Maybe not too unique, because sometimes you get those weird ones where it's like the caramel apple was always like, I don't know if I trust this.
Yeah. But even though my family was slightly like fiscally conservative, they did participate in the like for Christmas we'd have decorations up, and it's everything you described. And then for Halloween, and then all like Easter we would have egg hunts. You know, like all you know. And I kind of think, so I'm Gen X. I think like my generation, we have like a smaller dose of that, but I think our version of it was slightly, you know, frequently like I think like our parents, when they would go trick-or-treating, several families would go together. They would all sort of like in a huge pack. I think our memories are more like, oh, you know, frequently we were alone, or we were with 3 or 4 other kids, no parents. And I think like, I wonder like millennials, I think their experience of it, because I do recall a period where like in my youth, I remember the streets just being filled with kids.
Yep.
And then as I got older, I would be like, oh, it's so sad to like look out on Halloween night and not see like kids in the street. Like, and in fact, I remember like one year people were like, oh, they just go to the mall. I was like, what? That fucking sucks.
Yeah, I guess we never had anything that fancy or so on like that. But yeah, I guess that's the thing. They don't send people out. Well, it's like I literally saw like there was like the Boy Scouts, right? Scouts of America, and I probably just called the girl a Boy Scout. Like, hey, Boy Scouts! And there's a girl standing right there. But the Scouts, and I remember they were selling popcorn, and I was just like, you know, when I was a kid, they just dropped us off in a neighborhood, and we just walked.
No, that was
every single house to sell whatever the heck they had us. Like we were door-to-door salesmen, at 10 years old, and the guy's like, yeah, they don't do that anymore. They haven't done that for a while.
We would have a second. We would have like the first one, and then like after we were done, like I would beg my mom, like, hey, can I go out and just like hit the other places? So there'd be like a 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock second round. Oh man, love that holiday. But I think you're right. I think I do kind of feel like it's I don't know, since I lived in LA, I think lots of people decorate, but then I also think I'm attuned to it. I mentioned we moved into a house in the neighborhood that we're in. We're close to Burbank, and I've taken a couple trips out into Burbank, and Burbank, like, it's the thing you're saying where I feel like one person sets the tone and then the rest of the neighborhood is sort of like trying to keep up, because like those neighborhoods are just, and they're not like, it's like you're also saying, it's not just the sort of like, oh, there's a inflatable.
Yeah, like the easy one. There's not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's some things you can't tell. It's like, yeah, it takes up a lot of real estate space. It looks like I did a lot, and I'm done.
So we're trying to figure out our Halloween decoration scheme here, because like we have a lot more space in a yard. So like previously I would just like throw lights up in the house, in our apartments, and then now we're trying to like, and then it is sort of like, I think when you're just starting out, it's like, whoa, what gives you the most bang for the buck?
yeah, you do have to kind of do that, because like the grandparents back in the day, you built it up over time.
No, that's it. Yeah.
It's like, because that's the thing I always feel about is like, because I always picture like those houses that were like extremely decorated. A lot of times you could always tell it was like, some guy probably in about his 80s, by the time, it was in the 90s for me at least. So that this guy's probably built this up over the last 40 years. You know what I mean? Every year you add one extra new piece.
Every year you get one new thing.
Yeah, and it's like, and then now look, it's like, oh, he's like, he's retired. He's got all this time on his hands.
No, for sure. In fact, our last apartment, I sent a picture of. I went a little nuts because I had been doing that, like one new strand of lights every year or whatever, but like finally after about 10 or 15 years, like, I had maybe more than it really fits in one bedroom. And so I sent a picture. It was like Vegas, and my friends were like, what does your husband think of this?
Oh man, I just kind of, because it's like the only downfall is like where I'm at now in this part is that there's not a whole lot that kind of goes on exciting. Like it felt like there used to be. The last time I remember doing something really neat is I remember we did this probably almost a decade ago by now. It sounds weird. It's like it didn't seem like it's that long ago, but we went to Sacramento, and in Old Town Sacramento, they put on a pretty cool Halloween kind of mixed match of stuff, and everybody's just walking around to the restaurants and bars and dressed up and whatnot. And we did a whole like Justice League thing, so like we were all. I was Nightwing, so I had this pretty sweet Nightwing costume we put together and whatnot. I had a buddy who was he was Deadpool. Oh no, he was Deathstroke, I think is what he went as.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then there was a Poison Ivy. I'm trying to think. I want to say Laura was Huntress, but that was the when we went to go meet Kevin Conroy at one of the Comic Cons. I was Green Arrow and she was, I was Green Arrow and she was Huntress. I don't think what the heck she was. She was on that one. I'm trying to blank, but yeah, it was kind of fun. We had like 8 people together and so on, and just kind of went out there. Oh, then I had one buddy who dressed up as like he's like the outlier. He dressed up as just Assassin's Creed, like. Oh yeah, Catwoman. That's right. There we go. Okay, I was trying to think, but yeah, he was like everybody else was dressed up in Justice League, and he just had his completely different costume on. But that was like the last time I kind of remember, and it's like I would like to do stuff in Halloween. It's just like there's never up here. It's like I just never find anything to do, and it feels like I don't know what it is. I feel like I want something good to do. I'm not don't want to go into the house of just 3 people there and put all this time and effort into a costume. No. Let's I want to make it stand out well.
Before I lived in Los Angeles, I lived in Boston, and when I lived in Boston, first of all, Boston sucks, just hands down. But everybody in Boston, I would be like, hey, do you guys ever go up to Salem for Halloween? Because I had heard like Salem, like, oh, it's their Mardi Gras up there. And And I was like, yeah, somebody there like, oh man, I get crazy up there. I get crazy. And so like for years I didn't go, and then finally one year I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna try it.
Go
and
there,
they
yeah.
had a train. You could just take the train. It was like an hour to get up there, and it ran like every 10 minutes because like for the and then Salem, like they have a town. It's not a big town, and then they sort of have like the town center, which has like a common in the middle, and then just sort of like a big fun like a hotel and stuff. And just the whole town is like the event.
Yeah,
you go to the common and they're showing like Hocus Pocus on a screen, and they got like vendors everywhere and a bunch of stuff. But then you go on all the side streets and there's like parties, and this hotel has a masquerade ball, and this hotel has a seance, and like just as you go, just going through the streets, just everybody's out, everybody is dressed up. And then so I grew up in Florida, and Florida had in Tampa, in Ybor City, we had what we called Guavaween, and it was like Ybor City was just this like street full of bars, and it's just a bunch of drunk frat boys. It was always a nightmare, and it was just there's always like a lot of fights. Like like it's closer to the equator, people get madder.
Yeah, it's warm out. There's the humidity.
So Salem, there's only a couple places to drink. There are only a few bars, and then because there's only a few bars, there's like long lines to get in. So it kind of like kept like a governor on how many like crazy drunk people you had. So like mostly like even though everyone's having a good time, but it's not the sort of like that part, like the like just drunk people running around causing mischief. So it was like I think perfect. The only thing like it was a little cold.
Yeah, well, you are quite a bit north.
Yeah. You had to like have a costume. You couldn't have you had to have a costume that included layers, otherwise you were gonna.
It prevents all those skimpy like girls like costumes where that like was like a fad for a while, where it's just like
no sexy nurses, unfortunately.
Yeah, none of that. It was just like no. You put some clothes on there, miss.
But I still to this day, like every year, like we have a great in West Hollywood, they have a huge parade, like 20,000 people come out. It's fantastic. It's amazing. In fact, you should just come down for that, because that is
I should. That sounds amazing. As I said,
it's so great. Like because like the costumes, like because it's West Hollywood is sort of like the gay epicenter. The parade isn't gay necessarily. It just goes to that like stretch of town. But because it's the gay epicenter, you get all the like gays love costumes. So you get like all the gay costumes, which are fantastic. But then you also get like all the like special effects people, like who just do like crazy fucking shit. And then it's like 2 miles, I think, maybe 3. And the streets are just roped off, and it's just like traffic going one way, traffic going the other way. Everyone's in costume. Everyone is like, like having a good time.
Everybody's just there. That's the cool. I like that part. So if anything, you're just looking at everybody else's cool costumes. People put a lot of detail into them and so on. No, that's like some of the best parts. Like, well, one thing I did do it just a couple weeks ago, and I did it last year, and then I did it again with my buddy Cisco. Pizza Boys represent. But I went down to visit him at Tehachapi, and then we shut down to Universal Studios for the horror nights down there.
Right.
And we just do the thing. We just get the VIP pass, and just it's like that thing where it's like, yeah, it's like $100 more, but it's like you don't have to wait. Like the first time we did it, it's like, do we wait less than 5 minutes like for everything, so you can actually see every single one of those ones. And they got all those cool horror house walkthroughs, and they put a lot of like high quality into them, so you're kind of getting some like superior stuff. And every year it's different, and I like how there's even sequels to some of them. Like there was like a sequel to the one last year. There's like, oh, that's cool, and so that was kind of a fun way to sort of start off like I guess you would say the September like Halloween kind of.
I would also argue that's the time to do it, because they're not as crowded. Like, because I think
probably
the crowding kind of kills the haunted house. Like, like I think it's if you have a little bit of space in front of you and a little bit of space behind you, like that's like.
Yeah, they definitely could do that. Like, keep moving now. Don't you dare stop and look. Because that's the one thing is like, sometimes I kind of go in there, I'm like, man, I'd love to stop and can I study this a bit? Like, there is some really cool makeup stuff going on here. Like, there was one that was last year. This was probably my favorite one that stood out to me was everything was holiday themed. So there was like scary Easter Bunny, scary Thanksgiving, scary, of course, Christmas. And, so my favorite one, there was scary 4th of July. That was my favorite one of them all. I thought that was the coolest one. It was like the horror, like like Uncle Sam, but he's all like almost like looking like Eddie from like Iron Maiden and so on.
Somebody with all these sparklers blowing him up.
Yeah. That one was cool, and just the effects were just awesome. Like the Thanksgiving one too it was just a whole family sitting around, but they were just brutally murdered and so on like that.
May I do a quick sidebar?
Yeah.
So a friend of mine lives out in St. Louis. I went to visit her. Her birthday is around September. Into September, I went to visit her, and there was a billboards everywhere. There were like Scream Fest, America's scariest haunted house, and I was like, look, I'm from LA. We have all the retired like special effects dudes. I'm pretty sure we have the best haunted houses. But I was stuck with my flight got delayed, so I was stuck overnight.
I got time to kill now.
Yeah, no, really. So like I went into the
just going in there, arms crossed, impress me.
I went into the downtown to get some ribs, and then I went to the Street Fest. And first of all, it's in this building. They said the building itself was haunted. It was like an old like factory building. Looked fantastic because it was like into September. It was not super crowded yet. So like when I went in, really like as I was going through the rooms, there were like a couple people like a few rooms ahead of me I could hear, but like really no one. I was just on my own. And first of all, it went on for like 20-25 minutes. It was the longest haunted house I've ever been in. It just kept going and kept going and kept going. It was fantastic because there were so many people dedicated to just scaring me. I was constantly like, and they were doing a lot of things that I like. They would like, sometimes they would jump out from below. Sometimes they would but the best part, Spencer, you're gonna love this. You get in this room, huge room, like the size of a like ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through to the other side, the exit. The way you're going. That was the other thing, is that it wasn't clearly marked where you're supposed to go, so you kind of had to like feel around.
So you kind of had like that corn maze kind of feel as you're going through it.
Oh, great. The other side of the room is the door out. In this room, in this big room, it is just 40 or 50 mannequins with sheets over them, like ghosts. And like, okay, 2 or 3 of these are people.
Yeah.
And I did like something I haven't done since I was a kid, where like I went into the room and then I paused and I was like, I don't think I can go forward.
Yeah. Ghost.
So then I started like, tentatively making, and then they're all, so you kind of have to like just wind your way through. And of course, one of them was a person, but a few of them were also automated. So like, there'd be bursts of air or things like that. That room had me so fucked up. Like I was just so on edge. And then like, cause I'm a big guy, people would see you like, they love fucking with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They love seeing the big guy go, ooh. No, it was fantastic. When I finally got to the end of it, like I said, it was like 25 minutes long. I got to the end, I was sweating. There was like an Elvira pinball machine. I was like, this is the best haunted house in America. Hands down. I bought a shirt. It was fucking fantastic.
Oh man, that sounds amazing right there. Just the Elvira pinball machine just to top it all off at the very end.
Oh my god, I was like, this is home. I don't ever want to leave here.
That's like I remember the first time I went to the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose back in the day, and I remember my takeaway from that place was like, dude, the arcade they have there was amazing. Nobody goes like they probably don't have it anymore. That was probably totally like a '90s thing, but like they literally had this very legitimate arcade, like right next to the gift shop and whatnot. But
where you could play an actually cursed House of the Dead.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the real deal here. Oh man. See, we're also old enough too to remember the days when they used to be able to grab you in haunted houses too.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is like now, like once you kind of know that in the back of your head, that does take a little bit out, because it used to be a time period where like they could do that where they put their hands on your shoulders and oh man, would that just get you?
So two stories. I grew up in Florida and lived in Tampa near Busch Gardens. So Busch Gardens, one of the first Halloween Horror Nights, they did, their version of it was called Hallow Scream. So Busch Gardens is like very, like it's it's manicured to look like a jungle. You know, there's trees and like all the little paths that you go down look like you're, you know, they're like these little paths that wind through like, you know, jungle settings. It's the bush, and so they would put creepy stuff around, but mostly they would just like pump it full of fucking fog. So it would just be like these little paths that just disappear into fog, and then like there's trees and shrubbery and then eerie lights and stuff like that, and you would kind of like, and then like, you know, someone would just sort of like kind of step into the fog, you know, like they would have like a chainsaw or something, and that in itself was kind of like, it was super creepy. But one of the haunts, like the people who were around, you know, doing the scaring, was just a guy like kind of dressed up like a bush, and he would just stand there, and then he would kind of like move a little bit. It was great mood. And again, it was early enough, you know, there weren't a lot of people there, so you kind of like, you're just making your way, like it really was being like in a weird weird foggy forest. It was just
yeah.
A couple years later, I wanted to be one of the people who goes around scaring people, because I was like, oh, who wouldn't want to do this job? And well, okay, we're all adults here, right? I was, you know, it's my young misspent youth. Because it was a theme park and because it was Florida, they drug tested and I failed my drug test. But before they got that far, you know, they had orientation, and then you watch the videos and stuff, and they were like we're all here to have a good time. Sometimes people freak out. Sometimes they will slap you. Sometimes they will scream at you. They will yell at you. They will kick you. You must never, 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 ever, 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 under any circumstances, ever touch a park attendee. And they beat it into you so often that like it's the thing you're saying. Like I think it's the people are so litigious now, and like people are so afraid of getting sued. But that does take like, I mean, I don't want, people shouldn't rough people up.
No. But they used to be just that classic. You could put your hand on their shoulder, and I just remember that would be all. That's all you need to do. You know.
Yeah, we there was one like a real cheap and easy thing to do, like that mall haunted houses would do. Is you just got like garbage bags. You have to go through like a tunnel, you know, and it's just, you know, and then like there'd be like hands just sort of like, you know, like grabbing at you as you're trying to walk through it. And like, I feel like you got to have a little bit of that. But, you know, like, yeah. I get it. Don't sue. All right.
Yeah.
50 minutes in, shall we talk about
Yeah, so our Halloween lead up with all the haunted house glory, it's just setting the mood for a mad monster party, because that's what we're doing. We're going to an island, you know what I mean? We're going to bring all the classic monsters here, and actually it has a really weird ending of how this kind of like, what Dr. Frankenstein's whole plan is to do at this island is, I feel like this ending's a very shocking one, but we'll lead up to that. But he's got this thing that he's going to retire, so he's going to invite everybody over for one last Halloween bash, including his nephew.
So just to set the stage, this is the Rankin Bass. They call it Animagic, which is their stop motion, like Herbie the elf that wants to be a dentist. You see Boris Karloff. Looking like Boris Karloff as Dr. Frankenstein. Boris Karloff supplies the voice. This is a touch that I kind of think is actually rather clever. He, the man who has discovered the secret to life, creates this potion that can. He creates it, and you know, it goes up, lightning strikes it, very similar to the creation of Frankenstein, that can create utter destruction. So he's finally sort of like completed the yin to his yang. And he's also president of the monsters. So he's going to take his ultimate weapon. He's going to retire, and so he's going to have like one final blowout, in which he is both going to name his successor, as you mentioned, his nephew, and then he's going to pass the torch, and then we'll find out there's a little more machination in his plot beyond that. So he sends out all these invitations, and they go to all of our favorite movie monsters. Of course, there's Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, who is called Fang, which is a little confusing because you think that would be Wolfman, and he doesn't have wings. He's already at the Frankenstein lair, as you would expect, with his wife, the Bride of Frankenstein, called the Monster's Mate, which I don't love the name of, but
I think there's some kind of like like legal loopholes that are kind of jumping through. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. But yeah, you get the Phyllis Diller character there, which is one of those ones which is like like that is definitely like some people are like, man, that probably she's really funny, and then I feel other people would be like, man, this lady's really obnoxious.
Well, there is like from like vintage, I think like vintage stuff for kids had this weird conceit, like Bugs Bunny did it, this did it, because there's not just Phyllis Diller, but or Boris Karloff, but there's like a Peter Lorre character who like there's this conceit that like kids love seeing like weird old like weird old people like Humphrey Bogart would like pop up in Bugs Bunny cartoons, or like they would cut away to some sort of like, which I think in real time was old, like a bogey reference back then was old, they were still referencing something from an earlier time. But yeah, no, it's got that same thing where like, what kids want, they want Phyllis Diller.
And sometimes I don't know if that's also like, well, you know what, there's going to be some parents here at the theaters, and I mean, we got to have somebody for them to kind of relate to that they'll know. And I think some of that's like that. Boris Karloff, just no matter what, I think everybody kind of knows who Boris Karloff is, you know what I mean? So I think to have him in there, it just gives a lot of credibility. It's like, we're doing a serious monster movie, you know what I mean? Like, it's like having Vincent Price and like Edward Scissorhands and so on like that.
Right, exactly. He has the bona fides. The bone of just at a glance, like just a snapshot. What did you think of it? Because this was your first time watching it, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I'm going to go with that answer. I thought it was very fun. You know what I mean? It is very 60s. I like how it's got like literally like the bebop like jazz soundtrack, almost like slightly kind of like spy thriller-y. I thought that was kind of neat. Of course, stop motion just I'm always. That's something that, like, to me is always exciting no matter what. Like, I can never get enough of stop motion animation. I feel like that's the one, too, that, as I'm watching this, it's like I get impressed just by, like, things like just like when they have, like, the water and so on like that. Like, and you're trying to piece together how that water's all put to, there. And you can see, like, almost like this little plastic that. Yeah. And stuff like that, I think is just so cool. Just like how they have to think through and all this kind of stuff like that, and just it's just that real feeling. It's just like something about it. Like I think that's what. CG, I've always had the hardest time trying to wrap my head around. In years, I've kind of go, okay, it's just that's what there is. But it's never the same as when you know that, like, this is all real. Like, I think that's the thing is when you watch a movie like this, it's like, it's 100% real. It's a physical, whole world that they've created and so on like that for these monster characters to live in and so on there. And if you were there back in the day before they put all that, like, acetone stuff all over it and it ate away half the dolls, you could see all this stuff. It's not like, when you sort of watch a lot of like movies nowadays and then like you see the behind the scenes and you're like, looks like they shot that like on a high school like theater stage and then they just CG'd everything in around them, like there's nothing here, you know what I mean?
I was just watching the new Salem's Lot. Have you seen it yet?
No, I just saw the other day. They're like, oh, they popped up a new one because I heard that and I was like, oh, like the old one, because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, there's a new. And then, well, I also just speaking of like the earliest topic, I thought there was like, oh, there's a new movie in theater of Stephen King. Well, hell, I'll go show up there. Like, oh no, that's not in theaters. Well, dang it, there's another one I can't go to see. I guess this week will be another vacant week of no theater.
You know what? I was super bummed that they didn't release it in theaters because I feel like they totally could have. I think this sort of like direct to streaming gives it the sort of taint of like, oh, it's not as good. And I think they get this wrong a lot. Like I think Prey, the Predator movie, was sort of
so good.
That should have been in front of theaters.
That was my biggest kind of complaint to that movie because that movie was so good. I'm like, it's a shame it wasn't in theaters because that would have just elevated it that much more. Yeah,
no, totally. I think if I understand correctly, they're doing a sequel to Prey, and so my hope is, what I'm praying is that they will as a part of the release, they'll have like a screening with Prey, so you can kind of catch both of them.
And I wanted the Comanche release too, because once I saw that there was the Comanche version, I'm like, oh, I have to watch it like this. That is even more exciting.
Oh no, right on. I lost where I was.
I know. Let's see, Salem's Lot.
Oh, thank you. New Salem's Lot, I really enjoyed it. I think it's very faithful to the book, and I love the book. It might be one of my favorite Stephen King books. But there is a scene in it that's in the book that's in, I think, all of them, where the kid, this is not before my generation, I think this is the generation before, which I think is sort of like ground zero for a bad monster party, because Forrest Ackerman, who ran Famous Monsters, the magazine that I think really influenced horror fans from the generation before, the boomers. He is sort of attributed to having done the script on this, although I think as years have gone by, everyone has said like, no, that was yeah. But the kid in Salem's Lot, he has this sort of like diorama display of like, it's like a graveyard at night. And I think the reason why the Glick kids come over is because they want to see his monster display. And I think there is just something like endlessly fascinating. You don't have to be a kid to be fascinated by it, but like just miniature worlds are always entrancing. And I think that's the thing when you're looking at this. I would say it's the same thing for Nightmare Before Christmas, where you look at this thing and you just imagine like, oh my God, that set.
Yeah, like, it's real. Yeah.
Oh my God. And I think you can sort of like, you can kind of space out just on that aspect of these in particular. And which is, I think, because like, not to rag on Christmas, but like it's a lot of like cotton snow.
Yeah.
Like these are like they're in a castle. It's the set design is fantastic.
Yeah, no, everything about that's it's just cool. It looks great. As I said, they hit a lot of like the classic characters. They even have some characters in there too that kind of surprised me as I kind of went on. It wasn't just like your standard Universal monster movie characters. It's like they threw some other ones in there too. They did mention It, and I was kind of waiting for it because I thought it was like It, that 1950s like one.
Oh right,
like,
right.
Because I saw that in there. I'm like, oh, they're gonna pull It in there, because I'm like, I guess at that time period that wouldn't have been that would have been kind of a little bit more like a relevant thing. You know what I mean? Because that movie's like a very like obscure one nowadays. But I always like that one. Just those old. I love those old cheesy 50s ones. Especially if you throw a beach party theme in it too. Like why not?
No, I think It is the same thing as The Bride. I think there must have been.
Oh, maybe that's what it was, because I was thinking of It from Outer Space. Like that movie, like one of those like sci-fi ones. And then I was like, okay, maybe that's not the same thing. So maybe that is like The Bride or whatnot, because some things have a little bit.
It is like the Chekhov's gun in the story, because they make a big to-do of like, have you invited It? No. He made such a ruckus last time.
Yeah.
And so like It crashes the party later, and so It turns out to be basically it's King Kong.
Yeah.
So I think like there's a true joy of the movie is sort of like seeing that Rankin Bassification in the character design. I loved, like, it was just great. It was great seeing all of them. For some reason, Dracula has one crazy eye.
One's just going off. It's like, I'm like, that's gonna go back at some point, right? That's gonna be one of those ones where like it cuts and then it comes back. Someone's like, oh, we fixed that later on. It's like, oh no, that was designed that way somehow.
So, which was your favorite character design?
Ooh, that's probably a good one there. If I had to say my favorite character design out of everybody in there, gosh, that's like kind of a hard one. I did like the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
You can like which were the standouts?
I always think Creature from the Black Lagoon, even though it doesn't have a whole lot of parts in there, is always kind of cool. I'm always glad to see him appear in one of those. Dracula's got pretty good design, so on like that. They make him kind of a little goofy and so on like that, but he's fun. I even really just like this the nephew character, just the way his voice. I love that voice that he's got there.
Stuart,
Yeah, yeah. It's just like,
I
yeah,
haven't had a vacation in 3 years.
yeah. I'm a pharmacist. You know, I'm here going on vacation. I brought my golf clubs. Yeah, yeah. I just love, and I love how as he goes on, like he doesn't see things as he is. Like when the werewolf comes by, he's like, oh, hello, boy, here you go, here, fetch the stick. and Francesca goes like, yo, that's a werewolf. What are you doing? Like, oh, I don't know.
We haven't had a chance to describe Francesca.
Yeah, because so she's kind of the big deal character of this. Because
no. I think so. I had to go back and check, but I guess this was released in 1968. So this is before Kathleen Turner and any of her like famous roles. But this is such a proto. She's got the Kathleen Turner husky voice. She, as mentioned before, she's a voluptuous redhead. Imagine what was her name? Joan from Mad Men.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, as Vampira, you know, just like and then she's Frankenstein's assistant, and a little bit of a schemer. We'll see as
yeah, definitely scheming there, you know.
Well, she thinks, you know, he mentions he has this sort of errant nephew, and he's going to leave his plans and his legacy to his nephew, and she feels rightly, you know, like, oh, I should be the successor, not this kid, and she plans to do away with him. When the nephew finally makes it to the island, there's a series of like you were saying, the werewolf. There's a series of hijinks in which they're always sort of like the conceit is that he's constantly not realizing that he's an island inhabited by monsters. But then as he sort of like kind of rescues Francesca over and over, kind of comes to think like she gets a little sweet on him and changes her loyalties by the third.
Yeah, and you know, and the whole time, because the Francesca character is so kind of cunning and like turncoaty and almost very spy espionage. I'm like, which direction is she going with all this stuff? Because you know, like, there's a part where it's like, oh, wait a second, now she's just probably going to be using this poor boy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know, she was using Dracula, she's using everybody to get to what she wants out of this whole deal.
So there's the kind of there's some triangulation going on. Francesca is sort of teaming up with Dracula and who was their co-conspirator to kind of I think to do away with is his name Freddie Frankel, the nephew?
Oh, the nephew. That is a good question. I have to take a look at that. No. Felix.
There we go.
Felix Flanken.
And then the bride or the monster's mate and Frankenstein are kind of sort of working to protect the Frankenstein, but also kind of following their own end. There's an epic cat fight.
It literally has cat sounds. Yeah, and then you got old Phyllis in there too. She's got like a one-liner for like everything that kind of happens in this, and then the ha 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 ha.
So this is so as I mentioned earlier, I saw it when I was a kid. And then like there was this long pre-internet period where was it just a fever dream? And then I remember being in a comic shop, I can't remember at some point, and they had a DVD of it, and it was expensive, you know, like back then it would be like a $30 DVD.
You're like, oh.
But I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is real. So I bought it and then I rewatched it, and I had a kind of I had a different experience of it, you know, like I think here's the criticism I would give around it. Like I think the character design and the magic of the animation is fantastic. I think they're shooting this for they're targeting like a young audience, and they're trying to make a lot of like kiddie level one-liners, and it's a little it doesn't always work.
No, there's a lot of hokiness. There's a lot of cheese. Yeah,
I will say this. If you like, what's that banana taffy with the little jokes on the inside?
Oh yeah.
If you like those jokes, you are going to love Mad Monster Party.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of goof elements to it, and even like I'll say the musical numbers are a little strange. Like
That's the other thing. The one line
they literally feel like they're shoot in there, like we have to have 4 musical numbers or whatever, and it just doesn't feel like a movie that. You I don't know, it just they feel odd. I don't mind I like the bebop jazz score in the background. I think that's fine. That really makes you know that it's the 60s.
No, I think that fits the Mad Monster Party. But like Phyllis Diller, her first song is a sort of like a love song to Frankenstein, and it's like it's you're different, like you're different. Da, 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 da. Like it doesn't even have a good chorus. Like I feel like, and the thing is, I think these, particularly like the Rankin Bass, the Christmas specials, they do have great, like the songs are great, the songs are great. Everything is tighter. And you know what? I think the explanation for this, after the success of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which was a like made for television, like syndicated, it was like specifically made for syndication. The studio was doing well enough, so they decided to, I got all this from the booklet. They decided to like make a movie studio. So they had released 2 other full movies, both of which I kind of want to look up. I think they're both kind of a little obscure in the same way that this one has been. And so Mad Monster Party was always meant to be like a film. They kept calling it like the kiddie shows, which I guess was like, this is a little before my time. Kiddie matinees, which I guess.
Yeah, like, that sounds like if you're making this stuff, that's like what you don't want to hear. Oh, he's just making some of that kiddie matinee stuff. Like sounds like the degrading part of like the studio.
So I think this creates 2 problems. I think one, they're trying to like stretch this out over like an hour and a half. For time consideration, and 2 scenes were added. The producer was like, "Hey, we need more time." So there's these 2 sequences in the middle. One with this crazy chef who weirdly isn't a monster.
No, but he loves just cooking stuff up, and he's very Italian.
Yeah, he's mafia. Yeah, and I tell you, it's a spicy meatball. So there's the sequence with this crazy chef, and then there's this other sequence where the Peter Lorre character has these zombies who are going to go out and do air patrolling. Yeah, and they are sort of like, they happen in the middle, and they're a little bit of they drag a little. So I think that there were these I think everything is just sort of being like pulled out a little for
just like that taffy.
Yeah, man, just to stretch it out. And I think the thing that's so great about the syndicated, like the Christmas specials, is they're short, concise, like they hit really quickly, and they also fit the rhythm of like, you got 10 minutes in a commercial break, you want to end on a kind of a cliffhanger and then pick up, and it just, everything moves at a really brisk clip. And I think the Mad Monster Party just is a little slow.
No, that it's definitely true. It suffers the way that a lot of modern TV shows do, because they're not limited by that 45-minute cutoff time per episode. And I hate to sort of say it, I think there's very few people's shows that are really meant to be extended past that 45 minute. I think that they think they have that content. They don't. There's something to be said about having a little bit of a time limit that you have to make. And this one's kind of like it too, because this one's actually kind of a long one for because a lot of animation at this time period, even like Disney movies, they don't go too much over 60 minutes. And this one's almost, it's like an hour and 25 minutes or so. So it's got some length to it. And it's one of those ones that probably, if it had a runtime of say just a little over an hour, probably would have been about perfect. You know what I mean?
You know what? It's funny you say that, because Rankin later said he had done his own edit that was about that. He'd cut off like all the stuff that he thought was filler and extended, and he said like, I like that edit better. So I kind of think like, there should, when they finally do the Blu-ray, include the Rankin edit, because I think that would like, and also I think like another real missed opportunity is, as you mentioned, I do enjoy the 60s and the mod score, but some nice like science fiction and horror. Like there's no theremin, there's no like weird organ music, and I think
none of that.
There's a lot of scenes that are kind of quiet, or there's like a blare of trumpets and this and that, but they're punctuated rather than scored. And I think like a little bit of like just more of a bed music underneath, like a spooky theme.
Yes.
Like a Danny Elfman. If Danny Elfman, like went to town on this, I think it would cut 20 minutes off, put Danny Elfman on it. You got renewed and revigorated. Now you can take the question mark off. It really is a part.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like one of those ones, and you could probably cut the majority of the musical numbers. The one that's actually I just like because it just gives that like 60s vibe is there's the Mummy song where they have like like the beach party band and whatnot, and there's and apparently that dance is like there's a guy who choreographed that and everything. He was like, oh, he's the hot dancer of the 60s and whatnot. He's coming in to do the Mummy dance and so on like that. So like there's a little bit more going on there, but yeah, some of the other stuff too is like the musical numbers just they do feel shoot in, and like you really don't know sometimes like oh this is what we're doing here, okay, and some people could sing and some people can't, like that's the other thing you kind of learn.
Also, I think Phyllis Diller is great at that at like a comedy song, so it's so disappointing that her number is as flat as it is. She would have killed it, and it's a kind of it's a My Funny Valentine. She keeps listing all these things that are sort of detractions about about Fang, but sort of saying like, oh, but like you're this and you're that and you're a big lug and you're crazy and you're ugly and but I love you, and like
she does that thing where she just insults him about like 10 times, but like, I love you, so it's okay, right? You know what I mean? That's why I gotta say these things to you.
So like a song like that could have been sharper, and it was a real missed opportunity that I agree, I would have cut it. And I also think, has the Monster Mash come out yet?
I was really kind of wondering that too, because God, we almost need to look that up real quick.
I'm on it.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're on it, because this movie here says it's released in March 8th, 1967. So let's see what the Monster Mash is.
1962.
Ooh, so there's a good amount of time.
So yeah, I think like, why wouldn't you have? Although it was probably for a lot of reasons around cost, like, but it does feel like, what this movie is missing is the Monster Mash.
This movie at first glance, like you could see like how someone could be like, oh, is this where that song came from?
Right.
Yeah.
Have we had the Monster Mash conversation?
No, not till this second. I don't know. Where's this Monster Mash conversation leading to?
So the Monster Mash, we never actually hear the Monster Mash. What we hear is this song that describes a song and a dance craze called the Monster Mash. But we ourselves never hear the actual song, the Monster Mash. We only hear somebody describe, they did the match. They did the Monster Mash. Oh, and I don't know why. It's just something hardwired into me. But like, there's like there's this watercolor painting that I really love, and it's a guy, and he's standing in this like huge museum, and he's looking up at a painting, and it's sort of like all perspective, and the painting is on the wall, but you can't see the painting he's looking at. And I think like, oh, the really magical thing about this painting is the painting in it that you cannot see. And like the Monster Mash, like, what does the Monster Mash actually say? Oh, we don't know. We live in a world where we don't know the Monster Mash. What a sad, I don't know what you call those, like stories where the thing in the center is missing. I love those kinds of stories, and Mash is one of them.
Yeah, it all circles around it, but we never actually see that actual part of it, it's like Reservoir Dogs, you know what I mean? You don't see the heist. you see everything else unfold afterwards. But yeah, it is kind of weird, because I mean maybe that's what the thing was, is when he's like referring to the it, and like somebody went out of control. It's like, that was during the Monster Mash party. Like, no more. That was a crazy thing. You know where you were in '62.
So speaking of it makes an appearance. Surprise, surprise. He gets besotted with Francesca. Everyone does. She's a beautiful. I think she's the prettiest character that they've like.
They put some effort into that character.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones where I was like, Jesus, like with some side profiles. You're like, holy crap! Somebody had too much fun with that doll.
Two mad alums. Harvey Kurtzman, who I think wrote a lot of the jokes, which is doubly depressing disappointing, because he's, Harvey Kurtzman is such a kind of a classic like gag guy. It's really surprising that the one-liners aren't a little sharper. And Jack Smith, I think, did a lot of the character design. So these are two guys from the early days of Mad Magazine, great illustrators with a lot of history. And I think also why sorry, if I can go back for a second. We were talking about character design. I love Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde's not a character I'm super he isn't high on my list of like, I'm like you, I like the creature. But their design of him, the Jekyll version looks like one of their one of the standard dudes that they have in all their little like animation shows. Is a little, like a little blondie with a little stiff upper lip.
And he like never moves his lips either too. That's what I've noticed. He's like, he's hello, just talk like this. Oh, I'm Dr. Jekyll.
He would get like he would just get these like, racked with seizures, and it consistently funny every time. Like cracked me up every single time it happened. And then the Hyde design is also great. I think they took a character who's not super, not really super mapped out, and really ran with him. Really made him a fun character. It arrives. He takes Francesca a la King Kong. The planes finally come into play.
Yeah, the planes make way more sense now. Like once I saw I saw it coming here. Though there's a funny line I think they have that's like oh yeah, we like to torture like tourists like yachts out there with these planes.
The power of destruction runs a little amok. Luckily, Francesca has had her change of heart, and she and Felix are rowing away from the island. The two human characters.
Well, we learned that she's a cyborg though, or an android.
She is. Well, we learn both of them. Like as they're rowing away, we it turns out Felix isn't quite a nephew, and Francesca, they're both more of Frankenstein's creations.
Yeah. Well, then this is really wrong because it's like, okay, you get King Kong shows up at some point, which actually was kind of the surprising part. Like, I didn't expect that for some reason. It was like one of those ones.
Right.
But then I'm like, oh yeah, you can't think about like, because nowadays it feels like King Kong is he's looked upon in like a different category, but back then he's in that same category as like all these monsters and so on like that. Because like now I feel like people relate to King Kong though, like you know what I mean? He's like a superhero in a sense, you know what I mean? Him and Godzilla, they're not bad guys anymore. Yeah. But back in these days, they are, and so they're treating him in old school King Kong style and whatnot. And it gets to the point where, like, King Kong's he's got like he's got everything like under his arm, all the other monsters and so on like that. And Dr. Frankenstein's up there in his plane and whatnot, and he literally takes out like his like nuclear bomb potion and whatnot. And he's like, "I will use the antimatter here. Go, my nephew and Francesca, leave this island." And he blows the whole thing up. And I was like, "Whoa, that's a kind of dark ending right there." He just is like, the only way to stop the monsters is to kill them all. I'm going down with the ship.
So, on that note, do you think this is? I know this is in Hays Code era, but do you think that there's a sort of like, you can't be on the monster side. You can't have the sort of like, what were they called? So here's the other missed opportunity. The island is literally called Evil Island, or the Isle of Evil, and I was like, oh, come on, guys, you could do
yeah, the Isle of Evil
Island or something. You got to do a little bit of just Evil Island, and then the society.
You could have had been like you tied in like the island of Dr. Moreau or something like that. You could have had a couple more characters in there. Why not?
No, exactly right. And then the Society of Monsters. Do you think they had to sort of like, because it's a kiddie matinee, it has to kind of like wrap up with the monsters defeated in some way. Because you're
Yeah,
right, it is.
but
It's a
it's
little
like kind of
gray.
like, yeah, it goes like a Twilight Zone almost ending, like where it's like, oh, because it's like not only do you realize it's like I like that twist of you like, oh, the two characters that you thought were the human characters are now androids, they're not real, and then you also learn that Dr. Frankenstein gets rid of all the monsters together with literally his nuclear bomb like potion, like, so it's got like all this stuff going on. You're like, I remember this like there, I just felt that like I was like, oh, I was almost a little bit I did not expect that ending to be like that. You could tell this movie's going into the 70s. Geez, we're getting the like new Hollywood cinema right here.
Party at all. This is discrimination.
They say it starts with Easy Rider, but no.
That monster party.
Yeah, that's the start of New Hollywood.
Any final it's a hard movie I think to recommend because like it doesn't have the sort of like sizzle of their best work, but it's also I think because it touches with characters that we love so much, like it's the way the booklet describes it is as like a cult movie, and I kind of think that sort of is the right spot for it. Ultimately, over time, the inclusion of Phyllis Diller feels like really campy, which gives it a kind of an extra texture and an extra flavor, and I think it kind of does work in the cult space, because I think the expectation for cult stuff is like, oh, it's always going to be a little like jagged around the edges, and
yeah,
it's more, you have to lean into it more and put more of it in yourself to get more out of it. Although, remember when I think was it The Mummy, the Tom Cruise one? Was that was the Dark Universe, right?
Yeah, because that was the start of what that was going to be. Because I was looking forward to that. I remember, like, when that moment there, I'm like, oh, I'm down. I want to see where this goes. I mean, because the thing is I like that kind of monster stuff so much as is. So, like, it kind of bums me out when, like, they try something and they're like, oh, that's it. Because, they had Dracula Untold that was really good.
Yeah.
I'll see anything. I'll see anything Dracula, so it doesn't matter. But
are you excited about Nosferatu?
I am definitely so excited about that. That looks pretty good. And then that last Dracula one was actually pretty good too. The Voyage of
the Demeter.
Yeah, because I just thought it was cool. It's like that's like one chapter out of the book. And it's like, let's make an entire movie out of this. I'm like, I'm fine with that.
No, I'm excited for Dracula or for Nosferatu. It does feel like it's hard to tell yet, but it kind of feels like, oh, this is a cool version of Coppola's Dracula, one where it actually is creepy and it all kind of works.
It's just like I love in the Coppola Dracula where like when Keanu Reeves is first going there and he's just like he's looking out, he's in like the carriage and he's riding there and it's just there's just really weird stuff going on, but he looks like he's so unfazed by it. Like there's a part he's just looking over the edge and it's like just miles down there. He's like, huh. Looks over. There's like some wolves running up next to the cart and everything like that. He's like, oh, that's strange. There's mysterious blue fire going around in a circle. Does not faze him one bit.
No, he's Felix, right? He's
what you don't know is that Mad Monster Party is that Bram Stoker's Dracula is really like a remake of that.
No, it's a shame because I think Coppola's Dracula, like Oldman is great and the design of it is fantastic, and like a lot of it works. I think Renfield, Tom Waits is great. I think is it the girl who dies first? Is she Lucy or Mina?
Lucy's the one that dies first. Mina's
she's great. She's really fantastic. Those three weird sisters that the brides of Dracula that seduce Keanu. They're fantastic. Yeah. So, like a lot of it is really great.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've always said about that movie. Don't get me wrong, I'm very nostalgic for that movie because just like growing up as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's awesome. Like I thought that was so cool to like have that one. But I always thought that's one of those few movies where it's like, who really should have been playing it is Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah, of course.
I felt like that's really like Keanu's great at certain things, but he's not like a character actor in a sense where he can fit into any of these kind of roles. It's like he needs to be kind of Keanu. Like he can't, you know what I mean? You can't put him into old timey roles and things like that. He's just not the perfect person for that. Great. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Keanu Reeves, but like where Johnny Depp is great, he morphs into stuff. And Gary Oldman and Johnny Depp are kind of like one and the same. So I feel like the worst thing would be is that you have two guys that might be too much like chewing up scenery. Yeah, but I felt like that's who it was really. I feel like made for, and I don't know if that like. Because sadly, that Dracula movie doesn't have like a good special edition of it. If it does, because all the ones I have, like the DVD and everything like that, it has like no special features or anything really that cool.
Right.
Yeah, it's like they never really gave that movie like like the super special edition. Maybe sometimes it's like maybe by now maybe there's a 4K one that I just hasn't looked at. But
the thing is, I think when it came out, I think it was at sort of like a nadir for Coppola. Where like I think like Godfather 3 didn't really get. Like I think a lot of people were disappointed by it, and then
it's not Godfather 1 and 2. That's it. That's kind of where it is. Is it bad? No, it's not bad, but it's just not Godfather 1 and 2. Not really even close, but.
So I think that as a follow up to that, Dracula was. I think there was like a lot of expectation going into it, and it's sort of like a lot of his movies, he gets halfway there, but doesn't go across the line, and so like I think. I think it might have been in real time, like as it was released, kind of maybe viewed as a bit of a failure. So they probably didn't do a lot of, like embroidery around it like they would for any other Coppola release. But I kind of think like over time, I think our opinion of Keanu has changed because, now he's I would say Keanu and Winona. I don't think that Winona is a problem in the show. Like I think she's.
Yeah, she's fine for that because she's good at period piece type characters and so on, but.
She is, although the thing that you were saying about how like Johnny Depp and Gary Oldman would just bring out like the best in each other. I think when you have Keanu and Winona in a movie together, they kind of both make each other like they bring out the modernness in each other. The kind of pulls out of it in a way. Whereas I think if it had been someone else, she might have like slid in more. But I think like over time we've kind of like we're fonder of them. And more forgiving about the show. Yeah, no. It's the one Dracula thing that's one of my all-time favorite ones that I know that this movie never got a whole lot of love, but the people who do like it really do like it. But is the Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. I love that one.
I thought that one when that came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this to me was 100% like right up my alley. I loved it. It had all the characters in it. You gave it a nice like kind of action packed. It had even like 007 elements to it. So it was like it was like hitting every button for me. I thought that was so good. And it comes from the same dude who did Mummy 1 and 2, which are really excellent as well.
No, agreed. Also, did you ever see the? It's not Dracula, but did you ever see the Terry Gilliam? It worked on the same premise where like these monster hunters are grifters with was it the Brothers Grimm? I think Matt Damon is one of the two brothers.
Yeah, that is. I didn't realize Terry Gilliam did that actually.
I think you know what, I could be having a stroke, but I think it's a Gilliam movie. I think it's they are like it's like the Frighteners. They go around sort of like faking that there are these like monsters or wood elves or things like that they then capture, and then they run afoul of Monica Bellucci is this sort of like evil queen a la Snow White, and I don't think like has never looked more beautiful. Like clearly like for the ages. Anyway, worth checking out, and I think had a real similar Van Helsing vibe.
Yeah, no, because it's like one of those ones. I remember Van Helsing just kind of got like thrown under the bus somehow, some way. I don't know why. It's like people seem to love the Mummy, but then like Van Helsing was like, we don't get it. It's like, what do you mean you don't get it? Like, I'm like, what's on? It's like it's great. And it's like I think that one's so good. It's one of my go-tos for any kind of just all around, universal monsters coming together. And that's the thing is like it keeps feeling like they try to bring back that universe, and then like they'll try one or two, and then they just like, oh no, because I feel like Van Helsing was supposed to be that other one that was going to lead into more stuff, and maybe it would even tied into the Mummy eventually, and then that kind of got put aside. Then they tried the new Mummy with Tom Cruise, and then that was going to lead into some more things, and then no, and I think Dracula Untold was almost supposed to connect to that as well, and yeah.
I don't understand how this stuff doesn't do well. Like, and I also think like I have two kind of similar. I do not understand why, why isn't there a new Creature of the Black Lagoon? Like,
yeah,
like we're like with Shape of Water and stuff. We're hinting around it. Like it feels like it's like in the negative spaces revealing this is the thing we're waiting for. And then why isn't there a Cthulhu movie? Why isn't there any of the Lovecraft? Like Color Out of Space, which I think is fantastic, but is a little off the beaten path of the the standard like Lovecraft lore. And I just think like I could understand a couple of years ago, or many years ago, we didn't have the effects for it. I would say like The Thing disproves that. But like well now like look. You can make tentacles and to spare with digital. So like, let's get it, guys.
Exactly. It's like, come on. Like, well, I mean, at least Batman fought Cthulhu at one point in one of those animated ones not too long ago.
Hey, speaking of which, have you? I can't remember. Where do you stand on the DC animated the movies?
I generally like pretty much all of them. I literally, there's not one I'm missing in my collection. Right.
Okay.
I've gone Captain Republican and bought every single one of them. Like, and I can't. It's like one of those ones that they'll be like, well, another one's coming out. Well, I can't have a collection not be complete. So. So it's like one of those ones. Here's like 56 like DCU movies.
So what did you think of Long Halloween?
I enjoyed that because Long Halloween, the book is, if there's one Batman comic book that I pass to somebody, if they'll be like, I kind of want to get the comic books, I'd be like, take this one. Just start here. It's an easy jump into because generally these are all the characters that you've seen like in either the cartoon or the movies, and it's an amazing story. And mostly that's like the best gateway to comics, book you can kind of have. Like the only maybe downfall is that it's really good that like you might be stumble through a couple other ones next, realizing they're not as good as that one. But I remember like I liked that one, but gosh, I only watched that one. I believe. No, never mind. Let's take back. The Hush one was the one where they switched some things around. I remember it was like, oh, it's good, but like they should have just went the whole Hush journey and like that. I think
this one they switched some stuff around.
Long Halloween they switched stuff around, and there was the two-parter, right, guys? It's a
two-parter.
A moment. So I remember actually thinking that one was still pretty solid. I think I was getting confused with the Hush one for a second there because I remember the Hush one had like it wasn't the worst thing, but like they kind of switched around the ending a little bit much. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. You're trying to shock the people that read the book, but like I always feel when like when they try to do that, like it seems always kind of weird in movies where it's like, just make the book because let's be honest, 90% of the people watching this never read the book in the first place. You know what I mean? Yeah. The whole point of having a movie is so that you can sell it in a sense, especially I guess as like friends, you could be like, you could pass it to people who won't read a book, but they'll watch a movie.
No, and I also kind of think like, I think in this particular market, you are not making a movie that has to appeal to, 1 million people. Like you're making or 300 million people, whatever.
Yeah, well, you still need a million. You just don't need. You don't need old school. You don't need old school 3-channel like numbers.
So like I think the joy for a lot of comic fans is like the Judas Contract or something like that. Like, oh, this is something I'm never going to see a movie of, but I finally get to see like a different take on like a filmed version of it, animated. Yeah. So I think like can't you we lose all these fights with the movie studios? Can't you throw us a bone here? Like, and this is it's a direct-to-video market, so like we'll be loyal, But I think this one veers a little, but I think it still makes here's what I would say. I think the visual style. I have been critical in the past of the animation. I think the early ones sometimes are a little working on a budget, and over time
of like the DC or
the DC ones. You know,
Well, like the Superman Doomsday and so. Well, then again, the second one's New Frontier. New Frontier, I think, is one of the top tier ones.
no. New Frontier is fantastic, and I think
Yeah, because that's like that one. Like I always forget how early that one is, and it's like, oh, that one's
Yeah, no. But the animation on this, it's not just so much that it's like it feels like it's a cut above, but there's a lot of direction. Like there's just a lot of there's a lot of choices being made in and not just the style of the animation, but like how the story is being told. And I found that very I was like, this doesn't feel like someone is just sort of like, I come in, I film it, and we're done. It felt like someone like really cared about telling this story visually. And you feel it, and I thought it was really successful. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, did that one have it where it connected into like that new continual universe, or was that one of the ones that was like a standalone Batman movie? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this. It felt like I own the movie. I know I watched it, but for some reason I'm having a hard time remembering if that's how.
I think it's a standalone because the Batman voice is not the usual guy, and none of the voices are the usual suspects, and their Alfred is a slightly different Alfred. It's the Alfred. All the characters are someone up to themselves. Their Catwoman is a totally different Catwoman. All their characters are their own people.
Because that's the way I like when they do those DCU anime movies, is when they just do them as standalone. I think that's kind of the better way. It's like the continual thing. I mean, I get what they're doing, but I'm like, if you want to have a continual thing, just make a TV show. Like that's what that's for. Because I remember that's what they did with the Hush ones. The Hush one was part of the continual part, which I mean, once again, it's still good. It's just I feel like it's kind of like it just should have been just that slightly bit. It's Hush. That book's another one of those ones that I feel is like a excellent top tier one that's kind of a bummer one. It's like, oh, okay, it's good, but yeah, it's sort of like they kind of just slightly half-assed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I feel like there was a Killing Joke was another one that
well, Killing Joke just has one weird part in the beginning of it. The Killing Joke part is great. They slapped like an intro on there that makes you go, oh, that's kind of weird. Like. That was like one of those ones where it's like it's not that it's necessarily Batgirl, but it's like that's like his best friend's daughter. That makes it really weird.
Oh no! It's a no bueno. But also,
yeah,
it did not seem to feel the way that you were saying New Frontier feels like they're trying to make the Darwin Cook book, and then I was like, oh, this doesn't feel Alan Moorish and Brian Bolandish. It feels, like it's been pulled away. That was another thing that I kind of thought, the animation style in Long Halloween isn't Tim Sale, but they show a lot of his individual stills, I think, in the credits, and you kind of see they're taking cues even if they're not matching the style. They're taking the frames and sort of building them out.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like how the Dark Knight Returns one was like, because I felt that one was done really solid. I remember my only initial thing was it doesn't have the Batman narration in there, which felt like that's Frank Miller. But by the time the second one came, it felt like okay, I can go with this. I guess I get it. That's not there, but that just felt like it was kind of hard for the first while. I wanted it to be like my Blade Runner first cut. Where he's got the inner monologue going the whole time. which I do like that Blade Runner first guy. I don't care what anybody says. I like the inner monologue. Maybe it's because it's the comic book in me.
No, you know what? I agree. I think there's criticisms to be made about. I've certainly had bad voiceover. I think bad voiceover when you get it, but I don't know that is the problem. I don't think that's a problem with Blade Runner. I think his internal monologue it adds to and also I think it's a noir piece. You want to kind of be in his head a little bit.
Yeah, see that's what when I saw that too. That's what I thought. I'm watching a sci-fi noir. I don't know. I like that. Yeah. I don't know. I like both versions, but I actually prefer the monologue. As I said, it just also reminds me of kind of comic book. But yeah, there's just all those ones like that. And as I said, for the DCU ones, the majority of them have been pretty solid. There's been a couple little hit and miss ones in the last couple of years. It feels like I don't know, they pretty much ended up ending that kind of run with the Crisis on Infinity Earths. They did like it was a 3-part. I didn't realize it was going to go on that for that long, but it came around. It was decent enough.
It was. I feel like comic fans have two Waterloos, and they are like Crisis and Dark Phoenix Saga. Because I think both of those things are so like, if you want to do a good version of the Dark Phoenix Saga, you got to pull in the Shi'ar, and there's a ton. There's the Hellfire Club stuff, and then there's a lot of. I think people forget, like, there are all the, and then this whole bit on the moon and the Shi'ar Empire being like, we got to destroy her, blah, blah, blah. And like, that is like, if you're going to start at 0, that is a lot to build.
Well, that's why I give the cartoon credit, because the cartoon put all that stuff in there, and it never stopped to be like, we got to explain this to our audience. It just went with it, and you just you just absorbed it. I felt like, and it was like, okay, cool, yeah.
And then I think I think it's the same thing with Crisis. Crisis has so many moving parts, and you have to be built in, not just to know the idea of the multiverse, but you have to kind of like know the differences between a Superman in one world and a Superman in another. And I think it's a hard beast to wrangle, and I was like, oh, it'd be interesting to see what they do here. But I think being stretched across 3 movies, there's a lot of like static characters standing in rooms or in space stations, but not a lot of like so I was like, I liked it, but I think like it's a fine compromise, but didn't feel like we really got the fun of like, I think Crisis is sort of the apex of that kind of comic,
yeah,
like a big continuity within a universe, and like a cast of 1,000 characters, and super everybody has to team up, good guys and bad guys, against some super villain. Like it's majestic.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I don't know. I feel like hopefully, because that kind of leaves off a place there, it gives them a fresh start. Hopefully, I hope they just go back to. I just like the one-off movies. I think the one-off's kind of nice, because then you can change the animation style. There's no continuity to keep up with. Hopefully, you can just take a good comic book, and hopefully they'll finally do. I remember they kept used to ask for they'd have like these like surveys that'd go out, and I'd always be like, I want Green Lantern, Green Arrow, traveling heroes. That's the movie I want. Damn it.
So is that, if you had the power to compel the studio to make whatever you want, is that your that was always my fill-in one on there. I used to always fill in like a Long Halloween on there too, and then they finally did do that. But I've always put down Traveling Heroes on there. I'm like, that's what I want. You know what I mean? Have they ever done Gotham by Gaslight?
Yes, they did. That's actually a pretty good one too. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh,
see, we're at that point, you have to stop and think. Let's go. Wait. Oh, they did do it. Yeah, because it's like there was literally like 60 of them.
There was a trilogy of books that came out. It was Ted McKeever, who is he is not everybody. I love him, but he's a sort of eccentric artist who is not to everybody's taste. But he had done it was Superman by way of Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and then it was Batman as Nosferatu, Batman by way of Nosferatu. So he sort of took these old films, and he sort of took the design of the films and sort of like retold the stories of the superheroes in these. It was
was the third one a Wonder Woman one?
Yeah, Blue Amazon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would be cool, because I think they're one-offs. They have a really interesting visual style. And it has this sort of like connective tissue to the movies. I think that's a winner.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. As I said, I just kind of hope they go back to that, because the only downfall when you start doing like the continual series is it pigeonholes you in a section where you feel like either you have to work a classic story in to fit that mold now and those characters' style, or I mean, every once in a while they have done that before, where they just they do like 2 movies that are continual, 1 movie that's its own thing, and so on. But it'd be nice, hopefully, if they just kind of take a break from the continual and just go just do some one-off ones, kind of experiment.
Yeah, do an anthology. Remember that Simpsons episode that was like 20 short stories about Springfield, and it was just a bunch of like little. Like do that of the DCU. Like you have all these side characters who never, like the Creeper and like who never ever get the spotlight. So just do an anthology that you got Plastic Man, you got Detective Champ, you got like all these fringe characters.
Well, they're doing that cool thing for a bit too, where they throw a little short. They got cheap after a while.
Remember those?
Yeah, they used to put the short on there, and that I always was really looking forward to the short because the shorts were really good.
The shorts were the best because I feel like also the movies themselves had to be like, it was either the big three, or it was like
Justice League,
or the Justice League. And,
yeah, because that's like they kind of, and even if it was like other ones, they do that thing where it's like, okay, it's a Flash movie, but let's be honest, it's really a Justice League movie that kind of stars Flash, or it's a Justice League movie that stars Aquaman. So like you got like all like those little shorts, and they were all super good. And
did you ever see the one for the Spectre?
Yes, that was a really good one.
I think it's my favorite. It was styled like a 70s, had that kind of like 70s feel to it. It was beautiful. It was great. It was like, this is what you guys should be doing.
Yeah, and I feel like they had a Sergeant Rock one and all stuff too. Like so you had all these cool like characters. I mean, that's sort of what made Justice League Unlimited, I thought, was like a great way to do a show, because it was like, okay, it's a Justice League show, but they would always throw different characters in on each episode.
Yeah, all these are like
it kind of spread out. Or even the other one was too. There's that Batman Brave and the Bold show, and that one was smart too, because it's like you have Batman, so there's your gateway into there, but he's teamed up with somebody different every single time.
No, you get oh man, it was that's where you would get your Creeper. That's where you would get the Huntress. That's where you get like a lot of the sort of like side characters you don't get to see a lot of.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's always kind of a bummer because it's like you'd be cool if they just dropped and said like, "Hey, we're gonna do a Huntress." Well, every once in a while they would. They did a Vixen movie. I remember that was like, boy, that was a ballsy choice right there. I mean, it's a good one, but like I just like that's like, yeah, that's kind of like definitely not even the biggest character.
Oh, she's a deep cut.
Yeah, so I thought that, I mean, that's cool. I'm glad they did that. I wish they did a little bit more things like that. It's like, remember, like they had like the 2 Green Lantern ones, and they're like, that's it. He got his shot. That's it. No more. And they're both really good.
Yeah. But, yeah. It was like, what was it? Emerald.
There's Emerald Knights, which was like the anthology Green Lantern one, which is just like, all I meant is like the Green Lanterns are like stand in line to like charge their like lanterns, and then like they're telling the stories as like they're going down, like
war stories.
Yeah, and then there's the First Light one, which I remember it's like the perfect Green Lantern origin one.
Yeah.
Back when because that's like one of the first, like, I guess you would say 6 DCU ones. So like at that time period they were experimental because they did that Wonder Woman one that was really good, and they're like, didn't sell enough, no more Wonder Woman for a while. So that there was like a break on her until like the live action movie came out. But yeah, they tried. Yeah.
For 10 years.
Yeah, the first like 10 were like kind of like, yeah, let's try things out, and then they came to like, nope, it's either Batman, Superman, or Justice League.
Superman or the Justice League.
Don't get experimental. Wonder Woman, well, we're not too sure about that yet. But I know, as I said, I look forward to kind of seeing what comes out. I pulled out. I actually bought those. There's those Avengers ones that came out like right at that same time period that Doomsday and New Frontier came out, where like Marvel tried for like a moment, and I thought those animated ones were actually kind of good. And then they just they're like, you know what? That's not in the market. Forget about it. But there was like one. It's based off the Ultimates book, and there's Ultimate Avengers 1, and then I'm watching Ultimate Avengers 2, and I hadn't seen them since like they came out. And you can't watch them on anything. They're not like on Disney Plus or anything like that. I think his Lionsgate must just have it held down. So like I literally bought a Blu-ray that looked like it was like Blu-ray day one. Like I'm looking at this box, I'm like, this must have been like the Blu-ray you got when you bought the PlayStation 3, like when the first day out. Like it almost looks archaic, but so that's kind of fun. And then they did like a Planet Hulk one that was a cool one too.
Yeah.
And I think there's an Iron Man one.
So you just didn't want blending between like their take on Marvel, and that's why they're sort of suppressed.
It must have been something like I mean, they did have the Avengers TV show, I think, that was going on right at that same time, or the cartoon show that was going on, the Avengers Assemble. So maybe they just said like, just put the animated stuff into there. But yeah, I don't know why. It's like, as I said, they made about 5 or 6 movies, and then they decided like, you know what? Nah, and it was kind of a bummer because it's like, man, I felt like it would have been cool to have like, oh, there's a new DCU one coming out, and there's a new MCU animated one coming out, and and then once again, the Marvels would be great too, because then you'd have all those books you could pick from, and you wouldn't have to, especially if they just kind of did them, by the book in a sense, you got to sum it up a little bit to fit into a movie, but beyond that though, it's like, That's the best one. For when the DC ones are like on fire, I think it's when they kind of take the book and they do it pretty much, by the book.
A filmed version of it. And I also think like it wouldn't be bad that you could take a second bite of the apple with Thanos Quest, that isn't just sort of like, oh, we're gonna hunt down the Infinity Gauntlet, but is sort of like what the Infinity Gauntlet series was.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think there's fun to be had with that.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those ones. It's like it would have been kind of cool, but no, it's still kind of going fun back and watching that Avengers one. It's definitely not like as up to par as Warner Brothers animation. There's definitely something to be said there, but
I think that's
bad. Yeah,
it's hard to get good quality.
It's kind of hard to get. Speaking of, I thought this was interesting though. Is that that Mad Monster Party, going way back to our main topic? Is they literally, this movie, they were still like, they sent that over to Japan to animate for the most part. So they just made a bunch of I was like, wow, I would never have thought with like stop motion animation you would have done that. So they're like, you know what? Let's just here's some sketches and a couple pictures and you guys figure it out. Get that movie back to us.
No, I think at that point they had sort of had the whole operation that they were figuring out like how to do it. I want to say like do them as long as they wanted them to be for these theatrical releases, but not cost essentially the same thing as as their sort of syndication ones. And that, to bring it full circle, that is why, because when I was reading the booklet, one of the things it says early on is a lot of people had my exact experience where they saw it on syndicated TV. Because it wasn't one of their because it wasn't one of the ones that they had made for the TV stations that was going to be released every year for Christmas, because it was a movie that then got picked up and then would get broadcast on those local stations. It wasn't like every Halloween you would see it. You would just sort of catch it in these weird like in the middle of an afternoon on a Saturday. And so some kids saw it and some didn't. So like a lot of people had my exact experience where they were like, is this real? Do I misremember this? And so that is sort of like another part of why it has this cult status, is because it did and the thing is, like, you do see those, we've seen them I think every Christmas since we were kids, like they've just been in permanent syndication.
It'd be blasphemy not to show them. Probably people would probably start a riot in the street if you pulled those things. Yeah,
they're burning down NBC. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's kind of and it's a shame, because I think the thing that you were saying earlier, like, cut this down to a tight 45-minute edit, and you can have like a fun, like it's like Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. You can have something that comes around every. But I think because it was in this sort of weird, this one and the two that they released before it. Hold on, I'll look up what they're called. I guess none of them did particularly well, so they sort of abandoned that project of making. One is called Daydreamer. And then what was the other one called? Well, this is Riven.
Oh, is that the Willie McBean and his magic machine?
That's it. Yeah. And the Willie McBean, I don't know. I'd be interested to see them both, just to kind of see like, oh, what were their sort of like, when they aren't anchored to existing material, like where they're just sort of like creating stuff out of their own imaginations. What does that look like? But that might be even more interesting if you think about it. Just could be like you're not too sure what you're going to get. Yeah, so I think these got released. They had a very short window. They didn't do very well, and then I think after 3 losses, I think they just sort of said like I think these just got lost. I think they moved on and kind of like then they sort of kind of had this weird zombie afterlife until eventually like everything you wait 20 years and then it's cool again.
Yeah, well, the stop motion's got to be so much more expensive than like just regular traditional animation for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's one of those things in one of the special features. It was like they said, like it was like $5,000 per figure that they had. Like, I don't know how that cost $5,000, but geez, you got 20 characters in this movie.
Yeah,
right there alone.
It is.
Yeah, that means probably King Kong's $20,000 because he's so huge.
Right. That's why they included the Invisible Man. It was a costume.
Yeah, the Invisible Man. yeah, it was definitely, it's like we gotta have the Invisible Man. You know, let's put a little fez on top of him so you know where he is at all moments. But
No, he
yeah.
was cute. I thought all the characters were great. The design
There's not one that's not. Yeah, they're all great. They're all fun. They're all the classic ones, you know. You know, Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was another one that kind of is there. You know. But yeah, no, that one's cool. I was going somewhere with something about like how that all tied into whatever that. Oh, it was the animation in Japan. It's just funny when you think about it. Whenever I see that, I'm like, so that means like all of our American like cartoons that we so think that they are mostly they're all animes at the end of the day. Like no matter what, it's like because it's like that. It's amazing. It's literally like Japan or like once the U.S. like post World War II. It's like that's like one of the first things they have doing. Like, well, guess what you're going to start doing? You're going to start animating all our cartoons for us.
Oh, do you think you're not an anime fan? Surprise.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is like so. That's well, mostly it's kind of funny because like there'll be those people. They're like, oh, I don't watch anime. I only like American cartoons and so on. And be like, oh, well, lo and behold, pretty much almost all those Hanna-Barbera, a lot of those Warner Brother ones later days. Like they're all. I mean, Batman the animated series is technically an anime.
Batman the animated series. Hey, speaking of which, are you watching Uzumaki?
No.
Oh, check it out.
I need to. I'm mostly never like. I've always kind of like. I always have the hardest time when I guess like the TV. I'm great with movies, but then like when like TV and anything else, I need to catch up.
Oh, only just because it's always fun to see sort of see manga like adapted. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And then because it's kind of a horror. I don't know. It's a weird beast. But I really enjoyed the first episode. I was like, you know what? It's black and white. It's executed well. The style,
that's cool.
No, the style really matches the book. It's definitely worth checking out.
I'll gotta look that one up too because I'm always. I mean, I like the wide range of all kinds of stuff, anyways. But so yeah, I'll have to take a look there. Especially if you say it's in black and white. Like nobody animates in black and white, so that's always cool.
No, it's good. It's good, and it's just it's kooky. No, it's thumbs up. I give it a thumbs up.
Oh, sweet.
Or I guess thumbs around.
Yeah, a little round there. Well, you know, Mad Monster Party is going to set us off in a little Halloween mood for sure. I know there's going to be a few movies that are going to definitely have to come after this. Got to pull out some classic Universal monster movies. You know what I mean? Go back and what you can watch like the Spanish Dracula one or the Mexican Dracula. Have you ever seen that one before?
Yes, I have. Or I think, is that one of the ones that the Mystery Science Theater spoofed?
They may have. It's literally it's shot the exact same time that the Bela Lugosi one is. So what would happen is they would shoot the Bela Lugosi, and then like at like midnight or whatever, like the Mexican crew would come in and they would shoot their version of Dracula, and so on. And I remember I had one of those big box sets that had like Dracula, Son of Dracula. It had that version on it, the Mexican version, and so on. And I was just like, I had a buddy. He came over and I was just sitting there watching that, and he's all like, dude, like who else in the world is sitting there just like watching this right now? Like summertime or something like that. Like watching 1932 Dracula in subtitles.
So just to go back to the Dark Universe thing, were we denied Dark Universe version of Mad Monster Party? Was there going to be like if Mummy had succeeded and then the next ones after that, would there have been an Avengers where we had the Creature, the Mummy, Frankenstein, Wolfman all in one movie? Because that would have been pretty great.
Yeah, they gotta have a party. I'll even say this. This is one of those movies that Mad Monster Party, it really could be a remake. You could have a remake of this. It's been long enough. It's definitely one of those ones, like it's not going to affect the old one or anything like that. You would hopefully want it to be done right. I mean, but like even if you did it as a CG movie or something like that, this is one of those few ones where I'd say I wouldn't be opposed to somebody wanting to take this concept and running with it again.
Well, I think there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles felt to me, I'm pretty sure it's fully CGI, but it felt to me like CGI meant to look like, like Coraline, where it's CGI meant to look like stop motion, which I think I might be wrong. Coraline might have actually been stop motion, or some merging of the two, a blend of the two. So I think like, oh, you could do that, like I think you could do that. And I also think like, I think the thing that this, like, it almost didn't have to do anything. It's just, if you take these characters, like, I think the thing we were talking about at the very top, like Halloween is just so like hard coded into us. And, like, there's just such a love for, and then there's like a whole second rash of characters that like, we never got witches, we never got ghosts, we never got, space aliens, like, I think Nightmare Before Christmas kind of rings the same bell, and I think like, oh, look at how like loved and revered that is, like,
yeah, well, yeah. Well, that's also the other thing too, is realistically, if you really want to make some money off of it, you would just give it a Tim Burton spin, and you do the Mad Monster Party Tim Burton style, put the Danny Elfman soundtrack on there, and so on like that. As I said, it's one of those ones that I feel like it would not be. I would say that's not one of those ones where like you'd be boohooing it because it's got a remake coming out or something like that. I feel like
no. I kind of think like,
yeah, no, and it would just bring more attention to the classic one anyway. So I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's just one of those concepts that like I feel like you could run with this multiple different ways, and that's what would be kind of interesting to see, and yeah. The only thing is like, I guess as long as you just, my only fear sometimes is that somebody will take it and then they'll try to like put way too much like modern pop culture references into it, because sometimes that can just really like date a movie super fast. Granted, I'm not gonna lie that this movie definitely has that, like, it's 67 when you're watching it.
It's what you're saying. Like, instead of it being King Kong, you don't want it to be Pennywise. You don't want it to be the creature from Saw. You don't want it to be you want it to sort of like
it'd be like the Wreck-It Ralph of horror movies. I mean, like, at the same time, I guess this day and age, I mean, it would fit in with that Ready Player One. You just have like the horror movie version of it in a sense.
Yeah,
but, like, that's really like now that you say that doesn't really sound that bad. If Freddy and Jason showed up to the party, as long as you just make it a party feeling, it should just feel like you're watching a party movie. That has to be like the thing. Like, at the end of the day, it should be like, they should really just make it like one of those movies where it's like House Party, where it's like the entire movie takes place at a party. Like, doesn't
and then at the end they all blow up.
Yeah, they all blow up, and then you realize too there's a few of them that are androids, and so you gotta have that Twilight Zone ending no matter what. But no, I'm glad we watched this. I thought this was totally fun. As I said,
no, this was a blast.
It's one of those ones.
Great mood setter for the season.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely one, you can't just show it to anybody. You got to either be one really into filmmaking / really appreciate the Universal Monsters characters. I think I can see throwing this on, like, if you pulled this out like at a party, the people might look at you like, what the hell did you just pull? Like, you know what I mean? It could probably not go over super well, No, but
when I watched it again, I was like, oh man, I hope I have to be really patient with it. So I behind the scenes, I reached out to you. And I was like, what do you think?
Yeah.
I think you got it, because the thing I think for me specifically, or for anyone who saw it like when they were a kid, it is kind of perfect. Like, I think the jokey structure is fine for kids, and I think you're just really satisfied watching something semi-animated and with characters that you love. And I think so you can watch it as an adult with the critical eyes of an adult, but still kind of be connected to the kid in you that's just sort of like, oh my god, this is harrowing. But if you don't have that experience, I feel like, oh, it's a bridge to cross to connect with what the context that it was originally made in and what it was like.
Exactly. You have to kind of take it like you're taking a transportation trip back in time.
Yeah.
And just getting that cool experience. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit hokey and a little bit silly, but that's okay. That's part of the charm, Because for all like the hokey and silliness, sometimes that'll give you other ways to sort of laugh too,
No, I mean, and I think like at any point it's fun to just sort of like space out on like the set and just the set and the craft of what they're doing, making those.
Yeah, it's just like the water scenes. Like, I mean, I kid you not, when I saw those water scenes, that was all I could think of. Like, I almost like stopped paying attention to the story for a second. I'm like, wow, I wonder how exactly they did that. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, Jack, thanks for joining me again on the podcast. We're always just having a fun. It's the hangout party, you know what I mean? Like,
no, it's always a blast, always a good time. I always have an incredibly great time. Thank you so much for having me and for including me. And can't wait to do the next one.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have to find another fun-filled movie to jump into. I'm glad you shared this with me because it's one of those ones. It's just like I felt like I needed to see this. You know.
No. You take it off the box now.
It's definitely one of those for me that I felt like, oh yeah, you know, because it's one of those things. If you saw that like this existed, you'd be like, oh well, I got to find out now. So, you know, bringing this to my attention, perfect. We get ready for Halloween. But Jack, other than that, where do you want to send people to find your comic book? Gun.com.
Oh yeah, go to guncomic.com and you can find me Reckless Eyeballs on Instagram and what am I on Twitter? At the Villainist on Twitter, and check out guncomic.com in the next week or two. There's gonna be an update.
Ooh, a little teaser coming right at us. Oh.
You won't have to look far. It'll be right on the homepage.
We'd be right there. You know, I mean, you don't make people go, you know, having too much of a journey, but perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to that too myself. But yeah. Other than that, though, you can always go to oldmanorange.com where you'll find the more podcast comic books like Pizza Boys, all the old videos, animations, and all that fun stuff. Well, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes with super special guest
Jack Foster, occult detective.
Yes, back again. We're here talking fun-filled movies and doing the roundabout of all the other places it leads us. Well, till next time, we'll see you some other time.
Thank you, Spencer.